Cuba is facing a new and dangerous reality. Its long-standing oil lifeline from Venezuela has been cut, and the pressure on Havana is escalating fast. For nearly 2 decades, Venezuelan oil has been central to Cuba's survival. Shipments of tens of thousands of barrels a day kept power plants running, transportation moving, and fuel rationing at bay. In return, Cuba provided Venezuela with medical staff and, more critically, security and intelligence support for its leadership. That arrangement is now over. Following a U.S. military operation in early January that captured Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro in Caracas, Washington moved to choke off Venezuela's oil exports. Tankers were seized, ports were blockaded, and no shipments have left Venezuela for Cuba since. For Cuba, the impact is immediate. Venezuela had become Cuba's largest oil supplier, providing roughly half of the island's fuel needs in recent years as other sources dried up. With those barrels gone, fuel shortages are worsening across the country, compounding an already severe energy crisis marked by rolling blackouts, long queues, and economic contraction. The fallout is not only economic, it is also deeply political. Cuba's role in Venezuela went far beyond ideology. Cuban military and intelligence personnel were embedded inside Venezuela's security apparatus for years, protecting Hugo Chavez and later Nicolás Maduro. Cuban officers were part of Maduro's inner circle, his personal protection, and the country's intelligence structure. That role came into sharp focus during the U.S. raid. During the operation to seize Maduro and his wife, dozens of guards were killed. Cuban authorities later confirmed that 32 Cuban military and intelligence personnel died in direct combat during the assault. Their deaths forced Havana to publicly acknowledge what had long been denied. Cuban security forces were operating on the ground in Venezuela at the highest levels. Cuba declared national mourning. Officials hailed the dead as heroes and accused the United States of an act of imperial aggression. Washington, meanwhile, framed the raid as decisive and successful, noting that U.S. forces suffered no casualties. With Maduro removed, the United States is now turning its focus toward Havana. American officials argue that Cuba propped up Venezuela's regime and benefited for years of subsidized oil in return. With that alliance broken, Washington is signaling that Cuba must now choose between negotiation or further isolation. The pressure is already biting. Confiscation of Venezuelan fuel shipments has intensified fuel shortages and electricity outages across Cuba. The island's economy, already weakened by years of sanctions, pandemic damage, and structural decline, is under new strain. Cuban officials insist they have the right to import fuel from any willing partner and deny that their support for Venezuela was transactional. But finding alternative suppliers is proving difficult. Small volumes from countries like Mexico and Russia cannot replace the scale of Venezuelan support. The risk now is social instability. Cuba's economy has contracted sharply over the past several years, and mass emigration has already drained the population. Analysts warn that a prolonged fuel shock could push daily life to a breaking point, accelerating unrest or triggering another wave of outward migration. For Washington, the strategy appears deliberate. By cutting off external support and tightening economic pressure, U.S. policymakers believe Havana may eventually be forced to make concessions or face internal collapse. For Cuba, the challenge is existential. The loss of Venezuelan oil removes a pillar that sustained the country through years of hardship. Whether Havana can endure this squeeze, adapt, or negotiate its way out remains uncertain. What is clear is this: the end of Venezuelan oil has changed Cuba's position overnight, and the consequences are only beginning to unfold.